Morning campers! Today we're doing something a little bit different. Now there's a big clue given how I've got my hair done today, this little I don't usually bother doing anything with my hair other than like washing it and obviously raking a comb or a brush through it. However, today I kind of made an exception and I thought this might serve as a little bit of a clue. However, my hair's quite unruly, so by the time you see this video, it may not look as brilliant as it did originally, and it may some point during the course of the video go meh. However, it's a clue, as well as the fact there's a bank holiday on a Friday rather than a Monday. For those of you who don't know, today it is Friday the 8th of May. Today is quite a special day. Obviously you can tell by the fact it's a bank holiday, and it's unusual for us to have a bank holiday on a Friday, but also by the date. So if you go back in time 75 years today, there was a little thing called the Second World War, which officially came to an end in Europe on this day in 1945. Today it's VE Day, otherwise known as Victory in Europe Day. In order to commemorate this, the Royal British Legion have released a few limited edition poppies, of which I have one here. I've collected the other special edition poppies that the Royal British Legion have released for various anniversaries during the First World War. This one is a little bit different because obviously Victory in Europe Day was 1945, which makes it Second World War rather than First. I'm quite excited by this because I saw it online and I thought, oh, that's such a lovely little thing, a lovely little keepsake to have for this little anniversary. I know it's odd though, because I know a lot of people my age, for the record I'm 23, don't really think that we should celebrate the end of the First World War or commemorate Remembrance Day anymore because it's not really relevant to this generation. However, I'm from a military family, so commemoration was something that is important to me. We've lost people during wars, during conflicts, including recently. So it's important to commemorate things like this. I think it is for me anyway, personally. So inside this little box we have inside there's obviously a little poppy thing. We'll come to that in a minute. But first of all, there's a little card. This is mine. Each of these are different. My dad has one and his inside card is different. This commemorates a different story from home. Mine belongs to a woman called Marzenna, and Marzenna was only 15 when German forces invaded Poland in 1939, so this was the event that sparked Britain's entrance into what became the Second World War. Marzenna was only 20, but she joined 5,000 women to take part in the uprising. She wasn't trained to fight, but she was serving bravely as a courier and a stretcher bearer. Marzenna became a prisoner of war at the hands of the Germans and endured terrible conditions in Oberlangen prisoner of war camp. On the 12th of April in 1945, Oberlangen was liberated and she was relocated to a refugee camp in West Sussex with her sister and her mother. Having settled in Britain, Marzenna married and raised a family whilst working tirelessly to create a greater awareness of Poland's wartime resistance. And then it says at the bottom, Marzenna's is just one of the stories of coming home. With this pin, we remember the impacts that leaving, absence and coming home have on servicemen and women and their loved ones, both then and now. The Royal British Legion believes that no one who has served to protect our freedom should be disadvantaged because of the sacrifices they have made. We're here to help people living on through life. That's strange though. Very strange, because obviously I'm 23. So Marzenna's only a few years younger than me when if you think about it now, our lives are so vastly different to what they must have known. Their reality would have been going to war. Obviously, our reality is, at the minute, this whole here virus thing that's going around. But could you imagine 75 years ago being a prisoner of war? It must have been horrendous. But anyway, this pin is obviously dedicated to Marzenna. There's actually quite a big Polish community where I live. There during the Second World War, there was an airbase. There was an airbase, and a lot of Polish, Czech, and British pilots flew from that airbase, flew Spitfires, Hurricanes from there, and assisted in the war effort. So inside the box is another little box, and inside this little box there is a little poppy. Not quite sure if you can see it, but there's a poppy. Now obviously this poppy isn't red, this poppy is silver, and this has been done to symbolise the fact that these people survived the war. Obviously there was bloodshed, which stands for the red, but silver, different, it stands out. On this side you'll notice it's all nice and smooth, but yet on the back, you can see without all the pin, it's all dented. So on this side the dents represent the sacrifices that each person made in order to assist the Allies in their war effort. I think this is very touching, very personal, and knowing that there's a story behind each of the little bumps in the back, it tells you something really, doesn't it? It tells you that we probably wouldn't be here today in this, well, as we know it today, without the sacrifices, without all these little bumps. So this feels quite special. And I'm going to put it on and I'm going to wear it proper proudly. Let's pin it onto my jacket. It will pin. There we are. So this is my pin. My little poppy. Representing Marzenna's story of coming home. Obviously, as I said earlier on in the video, I come from a military family, so people in my family did serve both in the First and the Second World Wars, and in conflicts much later. I've had family in the Royal Air Force, Territorial Army, in the Royal Navy, so there's a whole great big huge mixture of family working in different forces. So to me the poppy is quite special, and this one is as well because the majority of my family came home. So their sacrifices would be represented in the little dents on the back of a poppy, because they sacrificed a lot. A lot of them left behind families, some had young children when they went off to war. When they came back, their children had grown and they'd missed out on a whole part of getting to know their child as their child grew older. So they'd missed quite a lot. And obviously the First World War was 4 years and then the Second World War was 6. So again, that's a long time to miss in the development of your child, or miss seeing your friends or your family, because people change in that time. People grow, obviously, and people change, people develop in their personalities. So, and the way of life that you've left behind just before the war might not be there when you come back. It might be changed. Obviously, with the Second World War and the Blitz, people would go off to help fight in these wars, may have fought in North Africa, may have taken part they may have taken part in resistance efforts across Europe, but meanwhile Britain was getting bombed, so obviously the physical change would be that the landscape had changed. So the house where I live is built inside a bomb crater. On the 17th of May in 1941, the town where I live suffered one of the heaviest raids during the Blitz. It's not too far from Coventry, so sometimes the Germans weren't very accurate with their map reading skills, and they'd land bombs on us. However, we also have main railway links up to the north, and we also had sterling metals, a navy base, an RAF base, and an army base. So lots and lots of reasons to hit us. So during this one air raid, a lot of incendiary bombs fell. One landed where my house stands now. This was Farmers Fields during the Second World War, and there's a great huge bomb crater where my house now stands. When we were digging up the garden and rotivating through parts of the allotment, we'd come across huge hordes of ashes, obviously left over from where it had been bombed, and you could see like all the scorch marks where the earth itself had been scorched. At the end of my street stands a church. The church suffered a direct hit from an incendiary bomb during this same raid. The Germans were aiming for the railway line, which is about 100 metres away from where the church is, but missed, hit the church itself, and the main body of the church was completely destroyed. However, the bell tower of the church survived. It's still intact today, but the rest of the church was left in its ruined state for a further 2 years until the prisoners of war based at the Arbery prisoner of war camp decided that they were going to help the community out for taking them on as refugees and rebuild the church for us. And that happened about 70 odd years ago. That's a little bit of local history for you from where I'm from. The war makes such an impact on us, on our small little town, because obviously you've got the military connections, you've got a lot of people that went off to fight and were lost, that are commemorated on our war memorial. You've got the history, the Blitz with the bombings and the casualties. Over 200 local people were injured and 130 were killed, and that's just on that one night of the 17th of May 1941. So that's a lot. That's nearly 80 years ago that happened. It's mad. It's mad to think that now. Sorry, I'm getting very lost up in my thoughts. But yes, I thought I'd just make this quick little video just to share a few little stories and to show you. And to show you these stories of sacrifices. The Royal British Legion is a charity which helps out servicemen, servicewomen and their families, regardless of whether they're still serving or whether they're veterans. You might recognise the Royal British Legion from their poppy appeals that they do every year. However, the Royal British Legion also commemorate using different events. The Royal British Legion has put together a little event programme for today. I'll post a picture of that here, so that if you'd like to, you can join in. Obviously, you could do some of it, all of it, or you don't have to join in at all. That's entirely up to you. I, however, am going to go and sit in the garden with a nice large whiskey, and I'm going to enjoy a nice big V-Day picnic before I start singing like Dame Vera Lynn and annoying the neighbours, because I really can't sing. Well, campers, I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. I hope you enjoy the festivities if you're going to take part, and I hope that you spend a little bit of time just thinking about the sacrifices that were made and the events that took place on this day 75 years ago, which brought about the end of the Second World War in Europe. I'll see you all soon. Bye.